She had 3 seconds to decide. Let the Vampire King drink the poison and watch her greatest enemy die, or kiss him and save the life of the monster who destroyed everything she loved. Elena's hand trembled on the wooden stake hidden beneath her gown. 10 years. 10 years of training, hunting, planning for this exact moment. The ballroom glittered around her like a fever dream, crystal chandeliers, vampires in designer suits, and there he was. Lord Kael. The Vampire King. The creature responsible for burning her village to ash and slaughtering her family. Tonight was his engagement party. Tonight he would finally pay. But when she cornered him in that shadowy alcove, stake pressed against his chest and vengeance burning in her throat, she saw something that changed everything. His champagne glass. Shimmering with silver. Wolfsbane extract. Lethal poison. Someone else wanted him dead too. And in that split second, with his hand reaching for the glass and death waiting on his lips, Elena made a choice that would destroy everything she thought she knew. She grabbed his face and kissed him, forcing the antidote from her mouth into his, tasting death and salvation in the same breath. That kiss saved his life. It also unleashed a conspiracy that would shake the vampire world to its core and reveal a truth more devastating than she could have imagined. She'd been hunting the wrong monster all along. This is the story of how one kiss at an engagement party started a war. Comment Team Elena if you think she made the right choice, or Team Revenge if you think she should have let him die. And make sure you stick around until the end because the twist will absolutely blow your mind. Let's dive in. The wooden stake felt cold against Elena's thigh as she adjusted the hidden sheath beneath her crimson gown. Her hands trembled, not from fear but from the rage she'd carried for 10 years. Tonight, the Vampire King would finally pay for what he'd done to Ashenmoor. The grand mansion loomed ahead, its Gothic spires piercing the moonlit sky like black fangs. Carriages lined the circular driveway, depositing elegant guests in glittering attire. Elena clutched her forged invitation tighter, forcing her breathing to steady. She'd spent months crafting the perfect cover story, bribing the right people, learning the intricacies of vampire high society. One mistake tonight, and she'd be dead before she could expose Lord Kael as the monster who'd burned her village to ash. Invitation please. The vampire guard at the entrance had eyes like polished obsidian. Elena handed over the cream-colored card, her heart hammering against her ribs. He studied it for what felt like an eternity before nodding curtly. Welcome to Lord Kael's engagement celebration, Lady Hartwell. The name tasted like poison on her tongue, but she smiled graciously and swept inside. The ballroom stole her breath despite herself. Crystal chandeliers cast prismatic light across marble floors. Vampires and humans mingled beneath vaulted ceilings painted with celestial scenes, their laughter echoing like wind chimes. A string quartet played something hauntingly beautiful in the corner. For a moment, Elena almost forgot why she was here. Then she saw him. Lord Kael stood on a raised platform at the far end of the hall, tall and imposing in a black suit that seemed to absorb light. His dark hair was swept back from a face that could have been carved from marble, sharp cheekbones, a strong jaw, and eyes that gleamed like molten silver even from this distance. He looked every inch the ancient predator he was, commanding and dangerous. Beside him stood his fiancée, Lady Morgana. The human woman was breathtaking, with golden hair cascading in perfect waves and a smile that could charm kingdoms. She clung to Kael's arm possessively, laughing at something a nearby nobleman said. Her diamond necklace caught the light, throwing sparkles across her porcelain skin. Elena's stomach churned. Did Morgana know what kind of creature she was marrying? Did she know about the villages he'd destroyed, the families he'd slaughtered? Champagne? A server appeared at Elena's elbow, offering a crystal flute from his silver tray. Thank you. Elena took the glass but didn't drink. She needed every sense sharp tonight. She moved through the crowd, listening to conversations, gauging the room's layout. Guards were positioned at every exit, their hands never far from concealed weapons. Getting out after the confrontation would be nearly impossible, but Elena had made peace with that possibility years ago. Justice mattered more than survival. Have you heard the rumors? A vampire woman in emerald silk whispered to her companion nearby. They say Lord Kael's brother was the real monster, not him. That Kael was betrayed. Impossible, her companion scoffed. Everyone knows what happened during the border wars. Villages burned, humans slaughtered. Kael's forces were responsible. Elena's grip on her glass tightened until she thought it might shatter. So even among his own kind there were doubts. That would make her revelation all the more damning. Kael began moving through the crowd, Morgana still attached to his side. He greeted guests with practiced ease, his voice a deep rumble that carried across conversations. Elena tracked his movements like a predator stalking prey. She noticed how Morgana's fingers dug into his arm when other women approached, how her smile never quite reached her eyes. Strange, for a woman supposedly in love. As the evening progressed, Elena positioned herself near the champagne fountain, a towering structure of crystal glasses arranged in a pyramid. She'd studied the layout from stolen floor plans. There was a private alcove just beyond the main hall, used for discreet conversations. If she could corner Kael there, away from the crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen," Morgana's voice rang out, amplified by the room's acoustics. "Thank you all for joining us on this magical evening. My beloved Kael and I are so grateful for your presence as we celebrate our upcoming union." Polite applause rippled through the crowd. Elena watched Kael's face, searching for the cruelty she remembered from that terrible night. But he looked almost uncomfortable with the attention. His jaw was tight, his silver eyes scanning the room as if searching for threats. Morgana continued, her voice honey-sweet, "In just a moment, we'll raise our glasses in a toast to new beginnings, to the union of our two houses, and to the prosperous future we'll build together." Servants began distributing fresh champagne flutes from silver trays. Elena noticed Morgana whisper something to a particular servant, a thin man with nervous eyes, who nodded and hurried toward the platform where two special glasses sat on a velvet cushion. One was clearly meant for Kael, ornate with gold filigree around the rim. Something cold slithered down Elena's spine. She'd studied poisons extensively in her hunt for the Vampire King, and her instincts were screaming that something was wrong. She began moving closer to the platform, weaving through clusters of guests. Kael excused himself from a conversation and stepped away from Morgana, heading toward the alcove Elena had identified earlier. Her pulse quickened. This was her chance. She followed at a discreet distance, one hand moving toward the stake hidden in her dress. The alcove was dimly lit, separated from the main hall by heavy velvet curtains. Kael stood with his back to her, one hand braced against the wall as if gathering himself. For a moment, Elena glimpsed something unexpected in his posture. Weariness, perhaps even sadness. Then she remembered the screams of her mother, the smell of burning flesh, and her resolve hardened. "Lord Kael." Her voice came out steady and cold that he turned, silver eyes widening slightly at finding a stranger in his private space. Up close he was even more striking, and more dangerous. Power radiated from him like heat from a forge. "Do I know you?" His voice was cautious but not unkind. "No. But I know you." Elena's hand closed around the stake's handle. "Do you remember a village called Ashenmoor? 10 years ago? You burned it to the ground. Slaughtered everyone. My mother died screaming your name." Kael's expression shifted from confusion to something that looked disturbingly like genuine horror. "Ashenmoor? I've never heard of that place. I swear to you I would never." "Liar." Elena's voice cracked as she pulled the stake free, pointing it at his chest. "I was there. I saw the fires. I heard your soldiers laughing as they murdered children." "My soldiers?" Kael took a step back, hands raised in a placating gesture. "Listen to me carefully. 10 years ago I was poisoned. I was unconscious for nearly 2 months. Whatever happened during that time, it wasn't me giving orders. My brother Nikolai ruled in my place, and when I woke— Convenient story," Elena spat, but doubt crept into her mind. There was no mockery in his eyes, no cruel satisfaction. Only a desperate earnestness that seemed wrong for a monster. Kael opened his mouth to respond, but his gaze caught on something behind her. His entire body went rigid. "Don't move. Don't say anything. Just stay exactly where you are." Elena's training kicked in. She followed his line of sight to a small table near the curtained entrance where a crystal champagne flute sat alone, likely brought here for Kael to collect before the toast. The liquid inside shimmered with an odd silver sheen, barely visible in the dim light. Her blood turned to ice. She'd seen that shimmer before in her research. Wolfsbane extract, distilled and concentrated. The only poison that could kill an ancient vampire, and it had to be consumed for the dose to be lethal. "That's meant for you," she whispered. "For the toast." Kael's jaw clenched. "Who are you?" "Someone who spent 10 years learning how to kill vampires." Elena's mind raced. This changed everything. If she let him drink that poison he'd die, which is what she'd wanted. But if he was telling the truth about his brother, if he really wasn't the one who destroyed Ashenmoor, and there was something else, a memory tugging at the edges of her consciousness. A young man with kind eyes, helping a lost little girl find her way through the capital's market district. "Don't cry, little one. I'll help you find your family." She'd been 6 years old, terrified and alone, and he'd bought her sweet bread and walked her safely home. You, she breathed, the memory crystallizing. In the market 15 years ago. You helped me when I was lost. Recognition flickered across Kael's face. The little girl with the torn dress and scraped knees. You were crying because you'd lost your mother in the crowd. You found her for me. You were kind. Elena's hands shook. The poison sat there waiting. Beyond the curtain, she could hear Morgana's voice calling for Kael, announcing it was time for the toast. Kael reached for the glass. Elena didn't think. She lunged forward, grabbed his face with both hands and crushed her mouth against his. The antidote capsule she'd been holding in her cheek, meant to protect herself from vampire thrall if needed, cracked between her teeth. The bitter liquid flooded her mouth and she forced it past his lips, her tongue pushing the antidote deep even as his surprised gasp gave her access. The kiss lasted 3 seconds, maybe 4. Kael's lips were cold at first, then warming. His hands came up to grip her arms, whether to push her away or pull her closer, she couldn't tell. The antidote burned as it transferred between them, a chemical fire that made them both gasp. Then she shoved him backward and swept her arm across the table. The poisoned champagne glass shattered on the marble floor with a sound like a gunshot. The curtains flew open. Morgana stood there, her beautiful face twisted with rage before she could mask it. Behind her, vampire guards and curious guests crowded the entrance. What is the meaning of this? Morgana's voice could have cut glass. This woman attacked you, my love? But Kael was staring at the spilled champagne, at the silver residue pooling on the marble. His fingers touched his lips where Elena had kissed him, and understanding dawned in his silver eyes. Guards, seal the room. No one leaves. And test that liquid immediately. My lord. The head guard stepped forward, confused. Now. The command crackled with ancient power, and vampires scrambled to obey. Morgana's mask slipped further. Kael, darling, you're not well. This woman clearly drugged you or used some kind of compulsion. The only drug here is wolfsbane. Kael's voice dropped to a deadly whisper as he advanced on his fiancée. Concentrated enough to kill even me. That was meant to be my toast, wasn't it, Morgana? Our engagement toast. The crowd gasped. Morgana's eyes darted toward the exits, but guards already blocked them. You're being paranoid. Why would I ever? Because you never loved me. The words came from Elena, surprising herself. But pieces were clicking together in her mind. You loved his power. His throne. And you couldn't wait to inherit it. Listen to yourself. Morgana laughed shrilly. Taking the word of some deranged party crasher over your own bride, my lord. The guard returned, his face pale. It's pure wolfsbane extract. Lethal concentration. If you'd consumed even a sip. The ballroom erupted in chaos. Vampires shouted accusations. Morgana's perfect composure shattered completely. You don't understand. He's weak. He wastes our power on peace treaties and human rights when we should rule with iron fists. His brother understood that. Nikolai knew what we were capable of. Nikolai was a butcher, Kael snarled. And you worked with him, didn't you? 10 years ago when I was poisoned the first time. Morgana's silence was answer enough. Elena felt her world tilt. You helped poison him before. You helped his brother take over. Nikolai promised me a real partnership, Morgana hissed, her beauty twisting into something ugly. Not this pathetic pantomime of playing house with humans. We were supposed to rule together, but then Kael woke up too soon and Nikolai got himself killed in that stupid border skirmish. That border skirmish was an assassination, Kael said quietly. I killed my own brother when I discovered what he'd done in my name. Morgana was faster than any human had a right to be, enhanced by some vampiric gift perhaps, but Elena had spent 10 years training for moments like this. She pushed her body beyond exhaustion, lungs burning, legs pumping as she closed the distance. Morgana's hand touched the carriage door handle. Elena launched herself in a desperate tackle, bringing them both crashing to the cobblestones. They rolled in a tangle of silk and fury, Elena's dagger appearing in her hand as if by magic. You stupid girl, Morgana hissed, her refined accent slipping into something cruder. Her hands closed around Elena's throat with inhuman strength. You think you're special because he kissed you? You're just meat. Food. Entertainment. Elena's vision blurred as pressure built in her skull. She couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Her hand scrabbled uselessly against Morgana's iron grip. But her other hand still held the dagger, and with the last of her strength she drove it upward. Silver burned into Morgana's side. The woman shrieked and released Elena's throat, stumbling backward. Elena gasped for air, coughing violently, but forced herself to her feet. Behind them, the sounds of Kael's fight were ending. Bodies hit the ground with terminal finality. "You'll pay for that," Morgana snarled, pulling the dagger free with a wet sound. Blood stained her perfect gown black in the moonlight. "I'll make sure everyone you've ever loved dies screaming." "Everyone I loved is already dead," Elena said hoarsely. "You and your kind made sure of that." "Not everyone." Morgana's smile was vicious. "There's a little girl in the southern parishes. Sarah, isn't it? Your sister? The one you've been sending money to through that merchant friend of yours." Elena's blood turned to ice. "You're lying." "Sarah died in the fire." "Did she?" Morgana laughed through her pain. "Check your facts, little hunter. She survived, got taken in by a farming family. Been living there for 10 years, completely unaware her big sister is alive. I wonder how long she'd survive if the Blood Moon clan paid her a visit." Before Elena could respond, Kael appeared beside her. Blood splattered across his face and suit. His silver eyes assessed the situation instantly. Elena stepped back. "She knows about Sarah," Elena whispered. "My sister. I thought she was dead." Kael's expression softened for just a moment. "We'll find her. We'll protect her." But first, Morgana seized the moment of distraction. She spoke words in a language older than stone, and the air around her shimmered with dark magic. The carriage door flew open and something emerged, a creature of shadow and teeth, bound by ancient pacts to serve whoever commanded it. "A wraith?" Kael's voice was tight with shock. "Where did you get the binding words?" "Nikolai left me so many gifts before he died." Morgana was already climbing into the carriage, her wound forgotten. "Kill them both. Make it slow." The wraith moved like smoke given form, its presence sucking warmth from the air. Elena felt primal terror claw up her spine. This was something beyond vampires, beyond the natural world. This was a nightmare given flesh. Kael pushed Elena behind him. "Run. Get to my study. There are wards there that can protect you. I'm not leaving you to fight that thing alone. It can't kill me. I'm already dead, remember?" His attempt at humor fell flat. "But you're human, Elena. If it touches you," the wraith struck like lightning. Kael met it head-on, and the collision sent shockwaves through the courtyard. Stone cracked beneath their feet. Elena watched in horrified awe as Kael fought something that shouldn't exist, his movements a blur of desperate defense, but he was weakening. The antidote she'd given him, it must have had side effects, draining his strength. And the wraith was relentless, its shadowy claws leaving burning gouges wherever they connected with flesh. Elena's mind raced. Wraiths were bound by ancient magic, but every binding had a weakness. She'd read about them in her research, in dusty tomes stolen from vampire libraries. They were creatures of pure darkness, sustained by moonlight. Elena shouted. "Kael, it's sustained by moonlight." Understanding flashed in Kael's eyes. He changed tactics, no longer fighting the wraith but maneuvering it, forcing it toward the covered colonnade where shadows were deepest. The wraith followed, perhaps sensing victory, perhaps too mindless to recognize the trap. The moment they were under the stone roof, blocking the moon's rays, Kael unleashed another sonic scream. The sound shattered the colonnade's support columns. Stone and timber collapsed inward, entombing both fighter and wraith in darkness. "Kael." Elena ran forward, but a hand shot from the rubble, pale and bloodied but undeniably alive. She grabbed it and pulled with all her strength. Kael emerged from the destruction, battered and torn, but the wraith's screams from beneath the rubble were already fading. Without moonlight to sustain it, the creature was dying. In the distance, hoofbeats announced Morgana's escape. Her carriage disappeared into the night, but Elena found she didn't care anymore. She was too focused on the vampire king bleeding in her arms, his silver eyes fixed on her face with an intensity that made her heart stutter. "That kiss," Kael said quietly. "I've lived for over 300 years. I've forgotten most of the people I've met, the women I've kissed. But I never forgot the little girl in the market. And I won't forget this night." "We need to get you inside," Elena said, but she didn't move. Neither did he. "Your sister is alive." His hand came up to cup her face, thumb brushing her cheek. "I swear on whatever humanity I have left, I'll help you find her. I'll protect her. Both of you." "Why?" Elena's voice broke. "I came here to kill you. Because you showed me something I'd forgotten was possible." Kael's smile was sad and beautiful and ancient. "You chose mercy over revenge. Compassion over hatred. You saved someone who'd given you every reason to want them dead. If someone like you can change, can choose differently, Maybe there's hope for monsters like me. Footsteps echoed across the courtyard. Kael's guards appeared, led by a stern-faced woman with silver hair. My lord, the traitors are secured. The ballroom is cleared. Are you injured? Nothing I won't heal from, Commander Isadora. Kael stood with Elena's help, keeping one arm around her shoulders. Whether to support himself or her, Elena wasn't sure. I need you to send our best trackers after Lady Morgana. And I need information on a human girl named Sarah, last known location somewhere in the southern parishes. Living with a farming family. Isadora's eyebrows rose, but she nodded crisply. At once, my lord. And this woman? Her gaze fell on Elena, assessing and suspicious. This woman, Kael said firmly, just saved my life and helped expose a conspiracy that would have destroyed everything I've built. Her name is Elena Hartwell, and she has my complete trust. See that she's given quarters in the East Wing and anything she needs. As you command. Isadora's tone suggested she had opinions about this decision but was too professional to voice them. As the guards dispersed to carry out orders, Elena found herself alone with Kael once more in the ruined courtyard. Dawn was beginning to lighten the eastern sky, painting the destruction in shades of pink and gold. What happens now? Elena asked. Movement exploded from the back of the crowd. 5 vampires Elena hadn't noticed before suddenly shed their glamours, revealing the crimson insignias of the Blood Moon clan, Nikolai's old allies. They moved with preternatural speed, weapons appearing in their hands. For the true king, one of them shouted, lunging toward Kael. Elena moved on pure instinct. The stake that had been meant for Kael's heart found a different target. She hurled it with deadly precision, catching the attacking vampire in the throat. He collapsed, gasping, giving Kael precious seconds to react. Chaos erupted in the ballroom. Guests screamed and scattered. Crystal glasses shattered. The string quartet's music devolved into discordant screeches as panicked humans stampeded toward exits. The 5 Blood Moon vampires spread out, cutting through the crowd like wolves through sheep. Kael's facade of civilized nobility dropped away, revealing the ancient warrior beneath. He moved like liquid shadow, catching an attacker's blade with his bare hand and twisting until bones cracked. Elena, behind you. She ducked as a female vampire's claws whistled past her head. Elena's years of training kicked in. She rolled, came up with a silver dagger from her thigh holster and slashed upward. The vampire shrieked as silver burned her flesh, staggering backward. The Blood Moon clan has been planning this for years. Morgana's voice rang out, triumphant despite the carnage. She'd retreated to the platform, protected by 2 more vampires who'd revealed themselves. You thought you'd purged Nikolai's followers, Kael? You were always too trusting. Half your court has been waiting for this moment. Elena found herself fighting back-to-back with Kael, their movements synchronizing with surprising ease. He was brutally efficient, never using more force than necessary, while she fought with the desperate fury of someone with nothing to lose. How many? Kael asked through gritted teeth as he snapped a vampire's neck. I count 12 total, Elena gasped, driving her dagger into another attacker's chest. But there could be more. 12 I can handle. His silver eyes flashed with predatory intensity. Cover your ears. Elena barely had time to clap her hands over her ears before Kael unleashed something she'd never seen before. A sonic scream that shattered every piece of glass in the ballroom. The remaining windows exploded inward. Chandeliers crashed to the floor. Every vampire in the room except Kael stumbled, clutching their heads in agony, their enhanced hearing making them vulnerable to the assault. In the ringing silence that followed, Kael's loyal guards finally organized themselves. They swarmed the Blood Moon vampires, overwhelming them with numbers. Silver chains appeared, binding the traitors with supernatural efficiency. But Morgana was gone. The servant's entrance, Elena pointed to a concealed door behind the platform, now standing open. She went that way. Kael's jaw tightened. Stay here. You've done enough. Like hell I'm staying. Elena was already moving. She's connected to what happened to my village. I deserve answers. For a moment she thought he'd argue. Then Kael nodded sharply and they ran together through the hidden door, leaving his guards to handle the remaining traitors. The passage beyond was narrow and dark, lit only by scattered torches. Their footsteps echoed off stone walls. Elena's heart pounded, but she couldn't tell if it was from exertion or the lingering sensation of Kael's lips against hers. Why did you save me? Kael's voice was quiet as they ran. You came here to kill me. I don't know, Elena admitted. Instinct. Or maybe I remembered something about you that didn't fit the monster I'd built in my mind. They emerged into a courtyard where Morgana waited beside a black carriage, four fresh vampire guards flanking her. Moonlight turned her golden hair silver, her face serene once more as if she hadn't just orchestrated mass murder. "I was hoping you'd follow," Morgana smiled. "So predictable, Kael. Always the hero. Always trying to save everyone." Her gaze slid to Elena. "And you, little human. Do you really think he's different from Nikolai? They're both killers. Kael just pretends to have a conscience." "Nikolai slaughtered innocents," Kael said coldly. "I execute traitors. There's a difference." "Is there?" Morgana's laugh was crystalline and cruel. "Tell her, Kael. Tell your new pet about the villages you destroyed when you were young and stupid. Before you developed this tedious moral code." Elena felt ice in her veins. "What is she talking about?" Kael's face was carved from stone. 200 years ago, before I became king, I was different. I participated in raids. Killed humans for sport. I'm not proud of who I was." "But you changed," Elena said, surprised by how much she needed it to be true. "Did I?" Kael's voice was hollow. "Or did I just get better at justifying my nature?" "Oh, this is delicious." Morgana clapped her hands. The little avenger falling for the vampire king. It's like something out of a tragic romance novel. "But here's the plot twist, Elena. Your village wasn't destroyed by Nikolai's orders. It was destroyed because your mayor refused to pay tribute to the Vampire Council. Standard procedure. Brutal, yes, but perfectly legal under the accords your human government signed." "You're lying." But Elena's voice wavered. "Am I?" "Ask him. Ask Kael if the accords allow for punitive action against non-compliant human settlements." Kael closed his eyes. "The accords do have provisions for enforcement. But I abolished those practices when I took the throne. What happened to Ashenmoor shouldn't have been possible. Unless someone was ruling in your name," Elena finished, understanding dawning. "While you were poisoned. Nikolai used the old laws to justify massacres." "Very good." Morgana applauded mockingly. "You're starting to understand the game. Nikolai wasn't a rogue monster. He was enforcing laws that Kael himself had once supported. Laws that kept humans terrified and compliant. When Kael woke up with his newfound conscience and started dismantling everything, well, some of us remembered the old ways were better. The old ways led to endless war," Kael growled. "Unsustainable fear and hatred. The old ways kept us on top of the food chain." Morgana's eyes gleamed red in the darkness. "But don't worry. Once you're dead and I've pinned your assassination on human insurgents, we'll have the war we need. The vampires will unite under Blood Moon leadership, and we'll remind humanity why they should fear the night." Her guards moved forward as one, but Elena noticed something. Morgana was edging toward the carriage. She wasn't staying to fight. She was planning to run while her guards bought her time. "She's running?" Elena shouted. Kael was already moving, but the four guards blocked his path. Elena made a split-second decision. While Kael engaged the guards with devastating efficiency, she sprinted around the fight, chasing Morgana toward the carriage. Kael looked at the brightening horizon, his expression unreadable. "Now, I have a kingdom to secure, traitors to interrogate, and a treacherous ex-fiancée to hunt down. You have a sister to find and a life to rebuild." He turned to face her, silver eyes warm despite their metallic sheen. "But if you're willing, I could use someone I trust at my side. Someone who sees the world differently than vampires do. Someone who isn't afraid to tell me when I'm wrong." "You're offering me a job?" Elena couldn't help the small laugh that escaped. "I'm offering you a choice." Kael's voice was serious now. "You came here for revenge and ended up saving the life of your enemy. That's not how most stories end. We can write a new one together if you want. Help me finish what my brother started and Morgana tried to complete. Find the truth about Ashenmoor. Protect your sister. Build something better than the old ways." Elena looked at the Vampire King, this complicated, ancient, surprisingly honorable creature who'd somehow become more than just a target. She thought about Sarah, alive somewhere and unaware. She thought about 10 years of hatred that had sustained her through cold nights and painful training. And she thought about a simple kiss that had changed everything. "I want to see the records," she said finally. "Everything about Ashenmoor. Everything about your brother's reign. And I want to be there when you question the prisoners." "Done. And when we find Morgana, I get to be in the room. Wouldn't dream of denying you that satisfaction." Elena extended her hand, formal and deliberate. "Then we have a deal, Lord Kael?" He took her hand, but instead of shaking it, he raised it to his lips. The kiss was feather-light against her knuckles, and entirely inappropriate given everything that had happened. Partners then. Though after tonight I think you've earned the right to call me just Kael. Don't push your luck, Elena said, but she was smiling. As dawn broke fully over the mansion, bathing the ruins in golden light, Elena realized something fundamental had shifted. She'd come here as a hunter seeking death. She was leaving as something else entirely, an ally, a confidant, maybe even something more complicated than she was ready to name. The Vampire King's engagement party had ended in betrayal, blood, and chaos. But standing in the wreckage with Kael's hand still warm in hers, Elena thought maybe, just maybe, it had also begun something worth fighting for. Comment below what you think Elena and Kael should do next. And if you're loving this story, smash that subscribe button because part 2 is coming soon, and trust me, Morgana's revenge is only beginning. Like this video if you want to see more vampire romance stories like this one. The hunt for Sarah and the final confrontation with the Blood Moon clan is going to be absolutely epic.